Hello and welcome to Dialogue. In a world driven by constant technical advancements, talent exchange has emerged as a critical catalyst for innovation and progress. How does talent exchange help drive technological competition? What challenges and opportunities does AI pose to talent exchange? And how can we address these concerns to ensure the responsible development of artificial intelligence? To explore the significance of talent exchange between China and Europe in the high-tech era, I'm joined by Denis Machuel, CEO of the Adecco Group, a human resources company, and Hongjian, Director of the Department for European Studies of China Institute of International Studies. That's our topic. I'm Xu Qinduo. Welcome to Dialogue. Denis, I will start with you. As someone who is leading a human resources service company, I wonder what's your observation, of the impact of the 3-year-long pandemic, globally on the workforce?
Yeah, thanks, Qinduo, and thank you very much for having me. It's an honor to participate to Dialogue. Definitely, these 3 years have changed the labor landscape I would say in 3 ways. The first way was, a lot of people have been laid off during the peak of the pandemic. And what was striking is when the doors of the companies reopened after pandemic, after the lockdowns, there were many less people to come back to work. Because it's particularly true, for example, in the hospitality business, where long hours, working on weekends, in many countries have had a consequence on people who said, I don't want to work anymore with those conditions. So that's the first one. And it's part of the explanation of the talent scarcity that we know across the world, the next experience. The second is related to the first one, actually, is the work-life choices that people have made post-pandemic. It was already a trend before COVID, but many people have rethought their work-life balance. Some people have said, I want to work less, even though I can earn less. The young generation that are joining the market at the moment are also rethinking their relationship with work. And then COVID has really impacted the way people think on that balance. Mm-hmm. And the third, which we don't speak much about, is about mental health. And we have seen more and more mental health issues in the workplace.
Mental health, Hongjian, obviously, I think every one of us, you feel this kind of pressure. Sometimes you're isolated, from meeting your friends, your families, even a lot of challenges. But anyway, the pandemic is finally gone. We can say that. But the impact will be lasting for quite a long time, Hongjian.
Yes, exactly. As we know, we are still living in an era so-called post-COVID-19, which means that we need to restart almost everything. But of course, we need to also reset something on the same time. As we know, the pandemic and also some, bomb of the new technology has been changing our life, or even our, the lifestyle so deeply. So I think now it's time for us to understand what happened for the past 2 years, and what's especially the percentage of this new communication or the new type of communication between peoples. But of course, now I think that it's a good time for us to estimate the role of the AI or some other new communication, and how to deal with some challenges from them. And also at the same time, of course, we need to enjoy some benefits raised from this new technology or new type of communication.
Mm-hmm. Let's take a look at this. Of course, the specific, probably response. For example, here in China, there's a recent survey by PwC. 48% of the Chinese CEOs on the mainland are highly optimistic about their revenue growth in the coming year. For many of them, China's talent dividend is now a top priority, as China's large and diverse pool of talent offers many opportunities for companies to innovate and grow. Hongjian, again, please explain to us, this talent dividend. As far as I can remember, it seems like first mentioned publicly by Chinese Premier back in March. In the press conference, it talked about the population challenges, which is dwindling, but we can make the most of our talents, of that, China is rich with.
Also, according to the traditional cooperation way between China and Europe, we do have a lot of channels approach to reach this, communication and also exchange of talents and cooperation in the frame of including the cultural and educational exchange. As we know now, we have some different levels dialogue and communication between China and Europe, and not only on the level of European Union institution and also on the member states governments. And at the same time, I think that between the companies and also enterprises, they do have a very frequent and high-level exchange of talent. We can find out there are so many engineers and some professional workers from European countries to work in China, and also, of course, with the more and more, investment from China to Europe, there are a lot of the Chinese employees working in the European companies. But now I think indeed we do have some challenges ahead. Firstly, how could we deal with the issue of the development and the security? Especially recent years, the European side raised the concern about the so-called security of technology and the security of economy and some other. So to some degree, it will give some, some more limitation or some, narrow space for more and more cooperation and exchange. At the same time, I think that there are some also investment screening system produced by European side. I think it also gives some problem or barriers for this exchange. So now I think for both sides, for China and Europe, firstly, they need to create a more favorable environment, especially policy environment, for this exchange of talent and also exchange of educational and cultural. I hope that this year there will be some, as we know, restart of mechanism of exchange in the frame of educational and cultural. And secondly, I think for these companies and enterprises, for both sides, they need to understand more about the cultural difference behind the cooperation, behind some even divergences. And the third is, I think, how for China and Europe, how could we find some new common interests to innovate some more area for cooperation. Now, namely, China and the European side have this digital dialogue on a very high level. I mean, governmental level. But I think at the same time, not only just a dialogue, they need to try to introduce some more practical, outcomes into this cooperation between companies and enterprises.
Mm-hmm. Well, the cooperation and, of course, the challenges in terms of cooperation between China and the European Union. We'll touch upon that certainly later on. But Denis, what's your perspective on China's talent dividend, on the new focus on exploring the talent to develop and to innovate?
Well, obviously, China is a fantastic reservoir of talent. Our group has been present in China for the past 25 years, and we really accelerated our development when we created this joint venture with FESCO, which is very successful and puts us in the leader in the HR market. So we love the Chinese market because of the skilled labor. You have very skilled workers. It's a very dynamic market, and 17% of digital workers are in China. 17% of the world digital workers are in China. So it's a fantastic potential, and we strongly believe that encouraging the move of talent across the geographies is a way for countries themselves to really benefit from that exchange. Last 40 years, 6 million students, Chinese students, have gone abroad to the US, to Europe, to Australia, etc., to study. 4.2 million came back and brought that fantastic leverage, I think, to the Chinese economy and the Chinese innovation. Mm-hmm. So I think we're very, very positive about the Chinese market, and also about the collaboration, as Hongjian mentioned, particularly between Europe and China.
Mm-hmm. Well, of course, you mentioned about the digitalization, digital workers here in China. According to the World Economic Forum, employers are looking for people who possess not only technical skills but also behavioral skills, or which is also called soft skills. So, Denis, this demand has increased by 53% according to a latest report. So, tell us, what exactly are soft skills? How do you think soft skills will evolve in response to technological changes in the future?
Sure, that's a very interesting point, because for many years we've looked at competencies through what the brain could produce. So memory, the computational power of brains, that's also how we were judging people and workers, right? In many different situations. And what is interesting, what our current period is interesting, but also threatening, of course, is that with artificial intelligence and particularly generative AI, this pushes us to rethink the relationship between human and tech, and particularly when you look at the capacity of AI to memorize, trillions of information. So no human brain can compute. So now what matters more and more in the workplace is the soft skills that you mentioned, the empathy, the ability to relate with others, to collaborate, to sense situations, sense human relationship, problem solving, bringing people together. I mean, all those are soft skills that today no type of generative AI is able to produce, and which those components are absolutely essential into an effective business.
Hongjian, with this development of technology, automation, AI, for example, obviously it provides a lot of assistance. It makes our work more convenient, easier. But at the same time, it forces people, obviously, people are feel kind of compelled to improve yourself, to enhance your skills probably in other areas in order to adapt to this new world.
Yes, I think that on one side, the progress of the technology certainly will be beneficial, finally, for China, for society, for the people's life. But also at the same time, as we know, this technological progress always, raise some challenges or some new issues for the human society. For example, now it looks like this AI and also some digitalization progress, raise some issue like the possible competition between the human being and the machine, or between the human being and the AI, some other. And I think it's a very, very big challenge how to keep a balance between to, encourage the technological progress and also to deal with any kind of impact, especially some negative impact on the human life and also some other. But of course, I think now, especially from China's experience, always once we try to achieve the technological progress gradually and sustainably, certainly we can find out a solution for any kind of challenges from this progress itself.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's shift it to China-Europe here, the cooperation. Dennis, we know, despite these geopolitical tensions, China and the European Union, for example, they are close partners in trade, investment, and technological, educational, exchanges there too. I wonder what do you see as a prospect for the future China-Europe cooperation in these aspects? What more should be done probably to promote, knowledge sharing, talent exchange, for mutual benefits, for mutual development.
Right. I strongly believe, I would say I'm cautiously optimistic about the China-Europe collaboration. I'm convinced that, whatever happens in the political world, the business world will strongly need that borders are open. We need peace. It reminds me of a private lunch I had with Shimon Peres, where he told me, governments think short term because of elections, they think borders because they have a country, and they think, defense. And businesses think more long term when they build a strategy. They think beyond borders, and they want peace. So, I mean, this is the business is a driving force to stabilize, I think, the world. And particularly when we talk about the exchange of talent, leveraging talent from one country to another as we build these global businesses. So I am confident that business will continue to operate across borders, that talent will flow, that we will be able to train. When we look at the massive upskilling and reskilling that all countries face, in front of this massive digital transition and this massive green transition that have to happen, I think we cannot sort of restrict ourselves to the countries. And particularly, as a good example, we will host our group, which is headquartered in Switzerland, will host in October a China-Europe Talent Forum, together with the Beijing Talent Work Bureau, with academics from China and Europe, just to ensure that we can better share, our best practices, how we can accelerate all that upskilling that has to happen. So I think those initiatives, go in the right direction of creating, a more skilled population, because it's, there's no good economy if you don't have the proper people and proper skills.
Well, Dennis, of course, there's a lot of areas, for China and European countries to work together. For example, I think there's a common concern when we are facing this automation, increasing use of automation and artificial intelligence, for example. There's a concern of the loss of jobs, unemployment rate could be high. And of course, there's income inequality. In that area, what should we do? Or is there any, potential opportunities for both sides to work together to face the challenges?
Sure. Well, thanks for your question, Chindu. I think it's a very acute one at the moment. It's something really with generative AI coming in. We see generative AI as an automation of role, as a double-edged sword. I think there are some great opportunities, and there are some threats. So on the threat side, of course, ethics have to come into play. Legislation has to ensure that data privacy is protected. It's super important. And companies have their own responsibility on that. We have created our own ethics committee to make sure that our practice of AI and particularly generative AI is properly guided. At the same time, there are many opportunities. Of course, automation can transfer, some jobs, but you can also, I would say, magnify and amplify humans in transferring more cumbersome tasks into automation and have people concentrate on more higher value roles. And this can really be benefiting for people. So in terms of job creation and destruction, if we look back 15 years when the digital revolution started to appear, lots of people said, well, it's going to destroy massively a number of jobs. Well, the proof is clear that it has created probably more jobs than it has destroyed jobs, different jobs. And back to the soft skills that we mentioned, some of the only computational job will be probably automatized, but it will, I think, put more emphasis on human skills, which we see as a real opportunity. So well managed, probably it's very difficult to anticipate, but the balance in terms of job disruption versus job creation is probably not as disproportionate as some people may see.
Mm-hmm. Well, Hongjian, you earlier mentioned about the cultural or the educational exchanges between China and the European countries. Here, we are facing the common challenge, in the sense, artificial intelligence, automation, challenge to our, routine work and life. So, do you see there's a potential for China and the European Union, for example, to work together? Probably to figure out what's the best way to adapt to the new situation and improve the skills of our workers.
Yes, I think now for China and Europe, they are trying to find out, firstly, common stance, and then to try to provide maybe a common solution, especially for both sides, will be useful. I think now for China and Europe, I think the most important thing is they need to have some more objective and also comprehensive, mutual perception. I think it's so important. If we look at the past 3 years, because of lack of the face-to-face communication, there are a lot of the misunderstanding for both two sides. And then I think once we have some more frequent exchange, face-to-face communication, certainly there will be some more, willingness and also potential to provide solutions for any kind of challenges and also problems. I think that now, especially for this very, very fundamental exchange, for example, educational and cultural exchange, I hope that both sides, especially European side, should not, produce some barriers. As we know, recently there is a news. I hope it's not true that some European countries will try to have some more limitation on this cultural and educational exchange with China. Even they will, drop down the number of the Chinese students in European countries. Once something happens that way, I think it's a very, very bad news for the any kind of potential cooperation between China and Europe. Because as we know, the exchange on the educational and cultural level always play an important role and provide, a fundamental, foundation for this cooperation for future. No matter what happens for the policy, for the environment, or even political environment, I think there's a people-to-people contact and the people-to-people mutual understanding always the most important, and also finally it would be the final solution for any kind of barriers or challenges ahead.
Mm-hmm. Well, Denis, lastly, of course, there's concerns remains that in terms of this like the AI development in particular. I think that's the top concern, probably the common concern for the entire world. That requires cooperation not only between China and the European countries, but also between obviously China and the U.S. and global joint efforts to respond to the potential challenges. We have to make some common rules, like how to use, how to rely on that, to make sure there's we can control the potential risks. What do you think? What are your suggestions? For countries to probably what they need to do to face these common challenges here.
I think there's so there are two elements to it. I think there is what the governments can do, and there's what the business can do. And I'm not here to comment anything to the governments, but just to say from the business side what we expect from governments. I think we expect wisdom from governments, and we expect that they unite forces, beyond the decoupling that we hear, even though Secretary Yellen saying decoupling with the Chinese economy would be a disaster. So going beyond that, when we face such a challenge of mastering that AI revolution. So having common grounds of discussions to ensure data protection across the board, in the various countries, ensuring that the reflection, there's a forum of reflection on how far can generative AI go and be regulated is an absolute imperative. So I call upon governments to have this wisdom and sit around the table, put various geopolitical differences aside. In a business, we have to manage those differences. I mean, constantly we manage the differences operating in so many countries, right? That's what we do for a living. So I would hope that governments do that. And on the business side, I think we also have, and there are many forums at the moment where business leaders like myself and some others really get together and reflect on what's the proper usage, how far do we go, how do we regulate ourselves. So I don't think it should be one-sided. It should be probably a combination also of how citizens use and do a proper use of that potential, but also governments and businesses. So we have, I think, to join forces on that.
Well, with that, we come to the end of today's show. Many thanks to our guests. You can also find us on the CGTN app on YouTube. Thank you for being with us. I'm Xu Qinduo. See you next time.